everyone. I'm often asked by people who are new to having a greyhound, what is the best way to get that greyhound to settle overnight when they first go home? People tend to ask where they should put the dog's bed, if the dog should sleep downstairs or upstairs, and what to do if the dog makes a noise in the night. So let's have a look at some of those issues. Moving into a new home is strange for any dog that's grown up in a kennel environment, and their first day at home is full of new experiences. And of course this then comes to a head at bedtime, when they may finally be truly alone when you go upstairs to bed or disappear off to the bedroom if you live all on one floor. And of course, if they're sleeping in your bedroom, the problem, or some of the problems, may be immediately solved, because part of the issue is about that dog being able to be near you and them getting upset if they don't know where you've disappeared to. But what if it isn't the plan to have them in the bedroom for whatever reason? And what if they can't do the stairs when you had intended for them to come upstairs with you and they decide that that's not for them at the moment? What should you do then? And what should you do if they get up in the night? What should you do if they don't settle at first? What should you do if they wake up horribly early? So first of all, let's think about where the dog should sleep. Typically they're going to be happier if they are closer to you, because you are now their new family. So I would establish a location for their bed during the day that is going to be acceptable for them to use at night as well. It doesn't generally work terribly well if you get them sorted somewhere during the day and then expect them to move into a new room at night, because this makes a very distinct change, adds some more strangeness into the day. So for example, if they are in the living room with you during the day, I wouldn't then move them into the kitchen or the utility at bedtime. I would put the bed as near as you can to where you're going to be. So if that isn't going to be in your bedroom, if they're able to come upstairs, it could be on the landing outside. It could be that the bed is at the bottom of the stairs or in the hallway if they aren't coming upstairs with you, if you have stairs. And I would aim to keep the doors open. I find that closed doors cause more problems. So if you don't want them to have access, you might use a baby gate, or even a couple of chairs put across the doorway could serve that purpose. And if you want the door closed, then maybe you could compromise by pushing it almost closed but not having it completely closed, because even a small gap can be enough to make the difference between a dog that settles and a dog that doesn't. So I wouldn't actually close a door between them and you. Some other preparations you might consider are leaving a dim light on somewhere, because this will make it easier if you have to come downstairs to them during the night. You won't be fumbling around in the dark for the light switch, and you won't have the light coming on make a distinct change in the middle of the night if you have to come down. You might want to try some soothing music to provide a bit of background noise, a bit of comfort, and you might want to use a calming spray such as something containing valerian to help them feel more relaxed at bedtime, and you could spray that on their bedding or on something near their bed. I would also think about putting up blackout blinds or thick curtains in the room they're going to sleep in if you don't want disturbances outside in the night to have such an effect on the dog, or if you adopt them in the summer, you don't want them to be getting you up at the crack of dawn when the light comes in and they're suddenly awake. So ideally, when it comes to bedtime, you're going to let them out for their last trip to the garden or nip out for that last walk to have a final wee. You're going to settle them down in their space, say goodnight, and head off to bed yourself. Fingers crossed. But what if they don't settle? Allowing them to cry it out is unlikely to make them feel better about the fact that they're suddenly totally alone. So I would never allow it to escalate. Now, if you listen when there's any noise, you may find that there's a bit of muttering or a little bit of squeaking, and then you hear them lie down again, hear them settle down, and you can heave a sigh of relief and go back to snoozing yourself. However, if it doesn't happen and it starts to escalate, then I would go down and settle them down. Now, you don't necessarily want to go up to them and make a fuss and disturb them. You could just go to the bottom of the stairs and talk to them through that crack in the door or over the baby gate in the dim light created by the little light that you've left on. So you want to be calm, soothing, and encourage them back to bed. If you hear them settle down, you can praise them and perhaps head off back upstairs. Personally, I tend to wait and sit halfway up the stairs for a bit and see what's going to happen, because it's quite possible that you may have to do this again 2 or 3 times. If it hasn't worked after about 3 times, my favoured response is that I decamp onto the sofa. So I just head off down there with my blanket. I'm not going to interact with the dog, I'm not going to cuddle, I'm not going to fuss, I'm not going to talk to them much other than tell them to go to bed. And I'm just going to wait for them to settle, praise, and then hope to get some sleep myself. It might be that you're better off starting on the sofa yourself rather than going up. A lot depends on how much sleep you need and how important it is for you to be rested the next day, because this could take a bit of a while to get them settled if they're not going to sleep through from the start. Obviously, with time, you can gradually stretch the time between the going to the bed and the problem. So it might be that they settle initially and then you could stay downstairs for a bit and sneak off upstairs later. It might be to begin with you have to sleep on the sofa and then creep off upstairs at 3 in the morning. It's a case of playing it by ear, but I certainly wouldn't leave them to cry it out. So the other end of that is, what if they go to bed okay, but they get up really early? And certainly in the summer, that could be 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock if they wake up with the light, or just because they're in that habit, because at the kennels the day started at that time. So if they do have a habit of waking up earlier and then starting to make a noise because they're missing you, then I would follow a similar approach to the approach I take at night. I would go down, try not to switch extra lights on, not do anything interesting or exciting, and encourage them back into bed with minimal contact, talking only if you can, and then either head off back upstairs myself, or if you don't think that's going to work, I would decamp downstairs at that point with a blanket on the sofa. Now, sometimes it starts off okay and it gets worse, so you might have to repeat these processes to settle them in again. I've had this problem with Gandalf recently. He used to sleep through really well, but in the last few months he's been disturbed by my neighbour, who likes to get up at 6:15 every morning, and as I'm a bit of a night owl and I work evenings, that's not really when I want to get up. So he wakes up when he hears her, he makes a fuss. If I don't go down pretty quickly, that is a very noisy fuss. So I just grab my pillow, grab my blanket, head downstairs and lie down on the sofa under my blanket. And as soon as he sees me come in the room, he goes back to bed. I don't even need to say anything to him anymore. And working on this, with this approach, we've already managed to get it to about 7:15, 7:30 before he wakes up and starts to squeak. And I think, to be honest, that's fair enough. I probably should be getting up at that time anyway, so I can live with that. If you tend to be up very early in the week but later at the weekend, that can cause an issue, so you might need to do the sofa routine at the weekends, because it's quite hard for them to understand why you're not getting up at your usual time when it comes to Saturday and Sunday, of course. So that can cause a problem with with weekend lie-ins. But hopefully that's given you some ideas of how to sort the dog out when it comes to sleeping through the night. I hope that's been helpful to you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Look out for new videos every Monday, and why not subscribe so you don't miss out.